Just
And
life.
then it's been a continuous tiredness.
Continuous tiredness.
Yes, I
Oh, my
haven't seemed to
days.
recover. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm kind of
Okay.
waiting for the drop. Like, are we gonna recover here? Because I feel like
Oh
I'm just
no.
tired.
I remember I was talking to someone, and I was like, "How are you?" And they were like, "I'm tired." But you know what? I felt tired last night, and then I said, "Okay, I'm just going to go to sleep." And then I went to sleep, and then I woke up, and then I was
I
tired
still
of
feel
sleep.
tired.
Like
Yeah, that
I,
person
I
needs to
still
check
felt
their
tired.
iron or
Do you
vitamin
get?
D or something.
What
I
do
don't
you get?
know.
Something is fundamentally wrong there. You
Yeah,
get
clearly.
joking. Oh
But I
dear.
feel
I
that
think
we just have those seasons when it just feels like you're
mm,
going to bed, waking up.
yeah,
Like
honestly.
your soul is tired. It's not
Honestly.
not
Do
your
you
body
get?
anymore.
Do you get?
Yeah,
It's just it's a serious mental tiredness
yeah,
at that
it is.
point.
I think
Oh,
it's mental.
yeah. Although I think there's this I don't know whether it's called a scientific study or be theory. Yeah, I don't know. But I think there is something that says that if you sleep for too long, you wake up tired. I don't know how true that is.
You know what?
My more sciencey
I
does.
actually don't know how true it is because
Neither
I
do
don't know.
I.
Just because you sleep for a long time doesn't mean you actually have good quality sleep.
Do you get? That is
So
true.
I think
That is true.
it's not exactly accurate. That study.
Okay.
The real
Yeah.
study. I think it's just
Mm.
African parents did that study and told us it's a real thing.
Oh my days. True, Sha.
But yeah,
True. All right, welcome to the dish. And we have another guest today who I will introduce shortly. But firstly, we're going to get into the appetizer.
thank
Cool.
you for having
So
me.
on the no worries, no worries. I'll introduce you soon. The thing on the appetizer for today is: would you rather always be hot or always be cold?
Hot, hot.
That is shocking.
Yes,
That is
hot.
shocking. You'd rather always be hot.
I think so. Maybe I need to
I
give it
just
some
feel
thought.
like,
But I'm
mm.
sorry, this country right now, you know,
Mm.
winter is not for me. So for me, like I just, when I go to Lagos, it's hot, and you're hot, but you can get some small
Mm.
AC. But even with cold, look how much you spend on heating. Although AC is also
Well,
expensive.
Trisha, do you get? I think my
I don't
reasoning
know.
was cold. I'd rather always be cold because I
You
feel
can
like
wear
there are
layers.
more. Yeah, exactly. There are more remedies. Do you get? Like
But
if I'm
when
always
you
cold,
wear
last I'll
layers,
always wear layers.
you really feel warm. Because for me, I'm wearing layers. I mean, every winter, your babe level goes from like 100 to about, well, if it was even 100 in the first place, to about 50 because you go from looking so nice to wearing like 5 layers on and one of my friends wore leggings under her jeans and I was looking at her like, you want to disgrace me. So I feel like, but you'll be outside
Oh
and you're
man.
still cold with all your layers.
Mm.
So I think with that, I don't know,
No,
this
but funny
winter is
enough,
not for me.
you know the way the way someone described it to me. The way someone described it to me is that they like being warm in cold. I think that's the way I'll describe it as well. I think I actually relate heavily. So like, when you're in a room, when you're like about to
Mm,
go to, when you're sleeping and the room is really, really cold, but you're like next to the heater and you're like under your duvet. So you're
yeah, but
warm,
see,
but
I
it's
really
cold.
struggle to sleep in the cold.
Well.
And I didn't grow up in one of those houses where our AC was on 18 degrees. Like, we never did that in my house. My mom put the AC on 26, like she was trying to kill us. So,
20
I
what?
mean, 26, yeah. Yeah.
So, sorry, so what's the point of the AC?
I don't know. But, so,
People save your
I can
money.
never remember a day where in my house
Mm,
the AC was on 18 and it was blasting. Maybe if my brother did it without asking
wow.
anyone. But, so for me, I was so used to being like kind of warm, you know.
Okay,
But yeah.
fair enough. I guess so that's what you're used to. No,
Yeah, I think I'm used to
being
it
hot
now.
at night. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, being hot at night
Being
is
hot
not
at
nice
night,
though. I think
the
I don't
worst
know.
cake
Being
ever.
hot at night is not nice. It's not nice.
No,
I just
just
think
be there,
why
you just be
can't I just
sweating.
be warm, like, balance.
Yeah, like in between, in between. In
Yeah.
between is
But
ideal, but
definitely
yeah.
cold. Yeah, hot and cold, definitely.
You say definitely like you would rather always be hot than always be cold.
Yeah,
Fair
yeah.
enough, Share. I guess that's like a thing of what you're more used to, kind of.
Yeah, and they're both extreme, so
Um,
none of them are great anyway. So
true,
that's the
true,
lesser evil
true.
for me.
I say, I guess what you're most used to. I guess what I'm most used to is warmth as well. I grew up in Lagos as well. Like I was there till I was
Yeah.
16. Sure you guys. So, but for me, I just feel like in the sense of them being on the extremes, I'd rather always neither are preferable, but I'd rather
Mm,
always be cold because I feel like I can adjust to it better than
yeah, it's
for it to be
true.
hot. Sure
Yeah,
guys. I think
yeah.
that's my answer. I think.
Fair
I think
enough.
that's my reasoning. That's my reasoning. Agree to disagree.
Yeah,
All right.
agree to disagree.
Cool. Before we continue, remember to check us out on Insta at the Dish with TBO. We have lots of Insta exclusive content on there. So be sure to head over and engage with us there. Also be sure to give us a rating on Apple Podcasts /Spotify. Or if you're watching on YouTube, smash the like button and don't forget to subscribe. And now I'm going to introduce our guest. I'm actually really excited. I'm actually really, really excited to have you on this podcast. I must say. I just think, anywho, I was thinking really cool. But anywho, today we have a truly very unique guest. She is a musician, also a speaker, also a writer.
Wait, are you talking about? You're not talking about me, right?
Truly a very, very unique guest. We have on the podcast Atinuké. Welcome
Yeah,
to the podcast.
I was like, is he adding someone else to the call? And then I was like, oh, wait, that sounds like me.
No, I was like, yeah, it is you. There's no one else here. There's no one else here at the moment. That's it, yeah. Welcome to the podcast. And yeah, like I said, let's talk about a bunch of things. I figured what would make sense, in terms of where to start from, is so you do music.
Mm-hmm.
You recently released an EP and everything, which was very cool. I thought it was very, very cool personally.
Thank you.
What was the process? This is always like my first. I'm pretty sure this is pretty much always my first question. If listeners have noticed, like for me, it's always like, what was the process? What happened? Like, how did you get there? You know what I mean? Like it just intrigues me. Like what was because I would imagine, because I just feel like more often than not with stuff like that, right? It's not really, you don't just wake up one day and you're like, oh, I'm going to release an EP today. You get what I mean? There was something, there was a process in it. So like, yeah, exactly.
So I think I'd wanted to release music for years. I just kind of felt like time wasn't right. So I've been writing because like I became Christian, I was 17, and I wasn't really into writing or singing till then. So I went to a very creative church. So I rubbed shoulders with lots of people who were like super creative, and I just ended up a lot of things coming out from me. So I was already writing poetry, and someone just challenged me to write music. So I was writing a lot, and I felt like 1 year into it, because me, I'm a very fast paced, like I just want to do everything. 1 year into it, I'm like, I'm gonna release music and this, that, and I just felt like, God, like sit down, honey.
Like chill.
Yeah, you need to chill out. So this was like years ago, and then I just kept on writing, because I guess that's what you do when it's not time to release something. You don't throw the vision away. You just keep building yourself. So I kept doing that. I had a lot of issues with my voice. So I kept I had some vocal training and like things like that. And then I just went through a really rough patch. I think 2020 was rough for a lot of people. And for me, it wasn't any different. Yeah, I mean, because of the pandemic, but also, the isolation. And I think for me, there was kind of a drifting that happened in 2020, because I was just looking at my life, and I was just like processing a lot of things that had gone on in my life, and like a lot of trauma. And I was just like, I'm just tired, God. Like, I'm just like, there's nothing else. And I just felt kind of, I don't know. I just felt kind of like giving up. I just felt like, God, I don't really know what you're really doing with my life. Like, look at my life. Is this really how you want it to look? Like, I just had a lot of questions and frustration and anger. And so I just did what I know how to do. I started writing. And so every
Mm,
morning I go downstairs to my living room, my house. I live with my friends. I was in fourth year of uni, and I sit down downstairs, and literally God being so good because of the pandemic, I was on a teaching placement at that time, and so I wasn't
mm,
going into placement for the first time in like 4 years. I didn't have to
mm,
leave the house for a whole month. So literally every morning I go and sit down for like an hour, maybe more, and I just cry, write, sing, and pray. And that's all I
mm,
do. And I just wanted God to help my heart because I knew that my heart just needed a lot of
mm,
healing. And
mm,
in the process of writing, I just felt like, okay, this nudge, like it's time. And I was like,
mm.
really? Like right now, like in the middle of all this
Yeah,
funk, you don't want
yeah.
us to deal with the funk first, and then. But I was like, no, we're walking through it now. Um, let's it's time. And so I didn't have a date. I didn't have anything. I just knew this is something I've been waiting on for so long, and
Right.
I just saw that nudge. So I messaged my friend Toby Olusheye,
Mm,
and I was like, Toby, I need to release music now. I need a producer, and he just helped me with everything. Like I had so many people who helped me a lot, and yeah, that's that was the process of starting, I guess.
mm.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
No, love it. Yes. So it was. So when you pick back from what I understand during the top time that was 2020. So a lot of the stuff you like wrote, what was it like? What was it about? Like during that time, was it about what was happening at the time in terms of like isolation? Was it stuff that had happened previously? Was it just like yeah, like what was
I
going on
think
basically?
I think it was mostly about my life, like genuinely.
Mm,
Um, and I didn't write them for anyone else in the beginning. I was just writing because
right.
I write for
Mm,
myself first, and I say this not even in a selfish way because I need to me too. I need to be sung over, like me too. I need to be ministered to. Me too. I need to be
yeah,
encouraged. So I
yeah.
wasn't writing thinking, oh, this is gonna be an EP. I literally just sat
Mm,
down to write things to
mm,
sing to myself when I was discouraged. So it was a combination of thinking of my past and my childhood and just like a lot of rough things that happened, but just also like where life was at in that moment. I transitioned out of the church. I had a bad experience with certain things and just all sorts of things that had gone on. And I was just frustrated. My friendships, I didn't feel very satisfied. Um, and a lot of it was me and was my friends and it was everyone's humanity was just playing, playing itself out. And
yeah.
I don't know, there was just a lot of things. I think for me it was about my family, it was me writing, just asking God like what to do. So I think all the songs cover a range of things from like worthy covering like things like body insecurities and little things like that are little but they're big
Mm,
when you feel it
but
to
they
things
are,
like deep
yeah.
waters, which deep waters for me was it was the day I wrote deep waters that God said, yeah, it's time to release this because that was my cry of my heart. Like God, like
Mm,
literally let your love be deeper than whatever it is I feel right now. And the
mm,
pandemic as well, like just so much grief, like the racism, that sparked a lot of conversations in my circles that were very, very uncomfortable.
mm,
Um and yeah, so a lot of things were brought to the surface that just it was a messy time. Yeah.
right. It makes a lot of sense, like all of that, and you also you talk about like basically everything that was going on at the time, right? In terms of just
Mm,
your life and that reflected in in everything that you were writing. It makes a lot of sense. It really does in terms of just at the end of the day, I always say like art is a reflection of the artist, basically.
yeah.
Um, so it does, it corroborates. Sure, you get it
Yeah.
does. You, you talk about race. I remember actually, I'm going to read one of your captions which I
Oh,
found,
not my
which I
castle.
thought was really, which I found, which I because I try as as you guys can tell, I do a lot of research into the
You
people
do,
that
well done.
we get at this, but I try, I try. But anywho, this one was from 15th of June 2020, and
Oh, I
you
know
said there was
it's
and the picture is you holding a sign that says "I am not a fetish," and the caption says, "There was no other sentence I could have put on my sign. It embodies so many experiences of people violating Black women with their looks, their hands, their eyes, and on top of that, making us feel like our beauty is a crime. Black women, our beauty is beyond mirrors. It is more than physical and more than ability or skill. It is more than what we bring to the table, considering that those tables are often created by people who choose to render our experiences as invisible rather than valuing our choices. The past month has been a whirlwind, but silence is being broken, and may it ring like an alarm until systems that predates Black peoples are torn down. A revolution is overdue." I thought this was really interesting because about a year later, you had Beauty Beyond Mirrors, right?
Oh, BTB Admires existed before that.
Before.
Yeah.
I didn't even know.
No,
I
because
didn't
it
even
doesn't
know.
have this is part of my problem with the
Mm.
host. It doesn't have like an Instagram platform. So I'm
It
worried
was
about
very hard to
creating.
trace.
Yeah, it's very hard
Mm.
to trace. I can't lie. Like
Mm.
I'm worried about making an Insta page because I have this thing about starting things and not being consistent with it. So I'm like,
Mm.
if I make an Insta page for BCB Admires, number one, what are we going to post? Like, I
Yeah.
send newsletters every week. Am I going to then post the newsletter on the Insta page? It sounds
I
like
feel that.
irrelevant.
Yeah.
So I can't find
Mm.
any purpose for an Insta page.
Yeah.
But actually, BCB Admires started in 2017, and it wasn't really. It was an event I had in my house. I just put it on my story,
Mm.
and I just said, "I'm having this event."
Mm.
And it was only like 5 girls. We prayed, we prophesied, and then we had it again the
Mm.
year after, and then again the year after, twice.
Right.
So I
Okay.
always did it in Lagos, and then
Right.
there was one summer I couldn't go to Lagos the time I wanted, so I did it in England. But I always did it during
Mm.
Christmas in Lagos. But then ever since with med school and with work, my traveling to Lagos
Right.
is a bit unpredictable. So it's been very hard to
Right.
do something consistent. So yeah.
Oh, okay. I understand. Okay, that makes sense because like so basically the earliest trace of it I could find was 2021, which is why
Wow,
I was
that's
a bit
crazy.
confused. Yeah, I was a bit confused. I was like, okay, yeah. I was like, did it start? Like, I looked at
I
it. I
have to
was
go
like,
to my own Insta page because that's
because
what
I was like, so was it an event in 2021 or like was it like the earliest trace of it I could find is from 19th of December 2021. Well,
Oh
that's fair. I think
wow.
you raise a very good point about like you don't like see a purpose for an Insta page, right? And so you didn't start one. I think that's really, really cool. I genuinely do because I think like it's about I guess what it's all about, right? It's about knowing like what your thing is. And so if
Yeah.
if an Insta page doesn't fit into that, then there's no need for it. You get what I mean? No, I
Yeah,
think that's
it's
really
very
cool.
hard in this time though because you feel like everything needs a platform. Like I just
Mm.
really struggle with that. So I have like a page called Tales of Weffy that I literally just post random poetry stuff. And
Mm.
like my friends really try to make it this thing. And I'm like, guys, I made this page simply because I wasn't confident enough to post some of my stuff on my real page. Not on a page till I find the confidence. Please don't make it this platform, And so they
Oh
made it this
man.
whole thing, and I'm like, it's just not that deep. So yeah, it's hard because if I
Mm.
manage 3 Instagram accounts, I promise you one will get neglected. Like I can barely manage my own Instagram account as it is.
Yeah,
So
I feel that.
yeah,
I feel that. Yeah, no, I feel that. I hear that. I understand that because so
yeah,
I
you
run
have
obviously
like
my own
3.
page. Yeah, I run obviously my own page. And then the dish page, which honestly, just God has been helping me. On the dish, I've pretty much posted like almost every week now for like a couple of months.
That's impressive.
Yeah, so the main reason, generally with everything I do, the main reason I couldn't be consistent before, even though I really, really wanted to be, is because I did the IB for sixth form. And
Oh,
IB,
no, child.
IB, no.
My friend
Just,
Maribel.
so, yeah.
My friend Maribel did that.
Yeah. Oh, man, that's crazy.
I remember
Yeah.
like, I was in A-level and she was in IB at the time. And
yeah. She was suffering, wasn't she?
Yeah. A lot of tears.
Yeah. So I did the IB, which, you know, so obviously as a creative person, I couldn't create a lot during IB because I didn't have the time. But yeah, since I've finished IB, I've generally just tried to get back or to being consistent and stuff. Which, you know, like with God helping me, I have been. So yeah, I've been posting on the dish pretty much every week. More than once a week, so usually about twice a week, but you know, yeah. And then YouTube every week as well. Podcast every 2 weeks. So there's my page, the podcast page, the Dish with TBO. Then there's the Radical Remnant one, which is, but then
yes,
so that's me and other people. So and
okay,
Instagram
so
isn't like yeah, exactly. So I don't even like, you get what, in terms of posting things, it's very barely even my like, very rarely would they say what's any kind of business. Like it's usually other people.
That's
so
what I need. I think the TBO Admires doesn't have a team at the moment, and that's
a team helps. Yeah,
there's no team. But in order to have a team, I need direction. And we don't really have. I don't have much direction.
I don't
know where we're going with this. So.
That's fair. To be fair, there's also like, so for example, I also have one for the Youth Nation, but the Youth Nation is a yearly event. So apart from when the event is coming
up, yeah.
I don't need to post anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, like there are ways, there are definitely ways to go about it, but I think it's very, very true and very, very admirable that like if it doesn't need that sort of like thing, then there's no need. Like there's no need to even like to go into it. I do agree. I hear that. I had a question which I've now forgotten. Because
sorry, I tend to do that to people.
No, it's all good. No, it's all good. It's not your fault. It's actually mine because I was the one that it's okay. Yes, it was about Beauty Beyond Mirrors. It's because it's because when I said Beauty Beyond Mirrors, which you started a year later, which was wrong. Because that's the earliest I could trace it to Sha. But yeah.
No, there's some things on my page. I think I just didn't. So back then, I think I just didn't caption it properly. But there's some videos. I'll send it to you afterwards.
Okay, well,
you wouldn't immediately know what it is. You have to watch it.
Okay, right. Okay, understood. See, so clearly I didn't do the research properly.
No. It's me and my post.
No, it's all good. It doesn't. Like I said, people that listen to this podcast, they genuinely, I think, is a very good thing for me. But I'm genuinely a bit concerned for them because the expectations are so low.
Oh no!
Expectations are so low. But yeah, it's all good.
Maybe they just think it's a chilled podcast,
which is true. Which is very true.
Exactly. Like, which is good.
So yeah,
which
is good. Yeah, exactly. Which is good. I personally, I love it. I enjoy it so much. I'm just chilling. Like when I look at my shadow, I have a
conversation about Lagos on fire and what was the other one about?
Oh yeah. Yes, thank you. That was an episode like a few weeks ago. Yeah. And now I've forgotten my question again.
Oh dear.
I forgot my question again. I forgot and then I remembered and then I forgot it. Yeah, it was about Beauty Beyond Mirrors, yes. So yeah, what's it about? What's it all about?
Oh, so it's right. It's like a meetup or workshop, and it's I guess the original intention is it's for women to come and learn about God and adopt a perspective about God where we see him as beautiful. So the word glory can also be, interpreted as beauty. And one of the reasons a lot of us struggle in life is because what we see as glorious or beautiful is not God, or is not God's idea of beauty. So the whole point of Beauty Beyond Mirrors is seeing God as beautiful and therefore seeing yourself as beautiful. So when you look at a mirror,
Right.
you just see your reflection of what's on the outside of you, right?
Right.
But
Mm-hmm.
when it's saying it's beyond mirrors, it's beyond what your eyes can see physically, and it's
Yeah.
seeing where God sees.
Yeah.
And so if we see God the way he's supposed to be seen, and which is very hard, obviously, as humans, but if we see him in as beautiful, we will see ourselves as beautiful for who we really are, not for what we are, told to be. And I think a lot of people hear beauty beyond mirrors and think it's like those really cute women's events where everyone wears pink and but actually the intention of it actually came from a frustration from those kind of events. I just wanted to hear the word and teach the word. It was very simple. Like it wasn't any like cool revelation of, oh, this is something in the Bible no one has heard. It was just people, like, if your perspective of God is wrong, like everything else is just messed up. Like how you see yourself, how you see the world. But if we can just get our perspective of God right and really see him as beautiful, because a lot of people's problem is not like we don't see, like people see God as mighty and strong and great, but to see him as beautiful is to see him as desirable, right? Like, and to desire God is very different from to just see him as cool and strong and able to answer prayers. That's where real relationship starts from. So I think for me, it came from a place of wanting women to desire God in that way. But I think also because I came from an environment where it was more restricted for me as a woman to do stuff, I think that's why I made it more for women. But now I'm starting to feel like I want to do something that's more inclusive of men and women. Which is kind of hard because I started something and now I'm trying to transition it, and it feels kind of, I don't know what to do with it.
I feel that. I hear that. Wait, so you mentioned you come from a place where it's more restricted for women. What do you mean?
So I don't want to go too into it, but I basically went to it.
Yeah, that's cool.
Like women don't preach and don't preach, don't So because of that, a lot of things I wanted to do, I had to find ways to do them outside of my church community. And so, so I think now that I'm not in that environment, I'm like, well, I'm kind of like, I can actually do these things in, so, in an actual, so now I'm kind of like, well, where are we going with Beauty Beyond Marriage? Do I want to open it up and make it like more inclusive? Because the name is not a female thing. It just sounds like it because everything associated with beauty, people think is about women. But true, like the moment you hear beauty, everybody, it's about women being beautiful and women looking nice, and and it's true. Those things are true. You are beautiful the way you are, but I'm not coming to tell you that. I'm coming to tell you about something a lot more important.
Something.
So
yeah.
So I think that's what I mean by more restrictive. So that was a different phase of life for me.
Right. No, fair. I understand that. It's weird. Yeah, when you hear beauty, you usually think, oh yeah, that's like it's like a skincare, like a. You barely find men there, man. I think if I definitely think even if just subconsciously, if I met a guy who was like, oh, where are you going? Like, oh, I'm going for this Beauty Beyond Mirrors event. I'll be like, okay. I'll be a bit surprised. I'm like, oh, I see. All right.
Yeah.
It's not what I was expecting, but fair enough. No, yeah. I hear you. For sure. I think the thing is, right, it's always a what's it called? Something to wrap your head around, right? When but I think it is a beautiful thing that, regardless of the history, right? Like you said, for example, coming from a place where, women weren't allowed to do much. I think that, historically, obviously, there's a lot of that. There's a lot of, women not being allowed to do stuff, not being allowed to, not having access to places, stuff like that. And I think it's a beautiful, beautiful thing that now you can basically come as women, let's come together and do this. It's actually something it is something I very much admire and respect about women. I think I think is actually lacking in men. Because men are so like, I don't know. I feel like, no, honestly, I feel like this. I was thinking about it just the other day, right? And someone can like actually correct me if I'm wrong, but
Yeah.
I feel like almost by default, right? Men are almost like, I don't know, we're just thought to be a lot more like,
Lack.
yeah, just lax, just
But
like,
do you see why men are more lax? Because you can afford to be, right?
mm,
So because of the barriers that are there for women, we can't
mm,
afford to be as lax. So
for
if
sure,
you
yeah,
go to if you have so many, like for instance churches where let's say women cannot preach, women
mm,
have to now come up with creative ways to solve
for
their
sure, yeah,
problem
for sure,
because nobody else is going to
definitely,
solve the problem for us. Whereas if you're in a position
mm,
of privilege, same thing for like racism, right? Black people have had
yeah.
to come up with so many creative ways
To
to
get
do
there, bro,
things.
to something,
Yeah,
yeah,
to
yeah,
survive,
I
Whereas
agree.
it's easier for white people. Like you come to England and see white
Mm,
people, what do you do as a job? Construction. If you have a black person doing construction, they will not have any future. Like you know
yeah,
what I
it's
mean?
harder, yeah,
Whereas
it's
with
actually
white
harder,
people, they
yeah,
get to do all these simple things and have easier
yeah,
lives because they are in a
mm,
position of privilege. So I think like
yeah,
privilege means that you can afford to be more lax. Whereas when you are the one that is in the fire, you have to create
yeah,
ways to make life work for you.
definitely,
Yeah.
definitely, yeah. I think it's a very cool thing. I think it's also like, I'm a firm believer in the fact that struggle builds community,
Yeah,
right?
100%.
I think there are a few things. It's not like a weird thing to say because, I'm definitely not one of those people that idolizes struggle or whatever.
Ah,
But I think there is a weird, and I fully acknowledge that what I'm saying is weird, but I think there is a weird beauty in shared struggle, right? And I think this
mm,
is like, even with like black people or whatever, in the UK, you can be walking down the road and you see
yeah.
another black man and he just nods at you and you nod back like, yeah, I see you, bro. You get what I
I
mean?
see
It's
you,
just, there's
bro.
just something about like shared struggle. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. There's just something about shared struggle. I think that's something that happens with like women as well, right? I feel like you have all these,
Yeah.
it is no coincidence that you have all these like communities for women and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
I think
Because
because
yeah, there's a shared stuff.
shared struggle breeds hope.
Mm,
There's a
yeah.
Bible verse that talks about when you're discouraged, remember that you have your brethren who are going through the same things as you. And
Mm-hmm.
so the whole
Yeah.
point of that is not Paul trying to say, hey, your struggle is not relevant, but to say, I
Mm,
know you're going through this right now, but there's actually a brotherhood of people going through the same thing. So be encouraged
absolutely.
because,
Yeah.
really, it feels like it's just you in the moment, but know that if they could go through it and get through it, and if they go through it and
Mm,
still be standing or still be joyful, you also have
mm,
access to the same thing. So I think shared
right.
struggle does build community because it causes hope and a sense of hope to just rise in you knowing that
Mm.
people going through something with you.
Absolutely, I agree. I think there's definitely that like solace that comes with it, which I think yeah, I think it's a great thing. I think for men,
Mm.
we just never like, bro, like how often do you see like a community for men? You get what I mean? Like it's
No,
not a
but I
common
think
thing.
there's stuff coming up. There's
They
people, you
are
know
coming
what?
up, yeah. They're
Yeah,
popping up, Sha. There's one I
yeah, and
saw. I
and
saw one just the other day. Yeah.
And also, there's also a question because now this is where I am my own biggest enemy. Because now my
Mm.
question is, Tinker, do we need a community for just women? And someone might be like, oh, Tinker, but you're running. And I know I started it, but I started it. And I'm one of those people, I believe beginning and end. So for me, I'm like, do we need this? Because if I'm being honest, like men and women all both bring something to the table. There's something about having
Mm.
equal participation and equal,
True.
you know, and it's
True.
give or take. I think there's seasons for things. Like I think
Mm.
there's this in my old church that I just went to in Hall because I move around a lot because of work. But they had
Mm.
this thing they do for guys on Mondays, and I think there's a
Mm.
time for it. But at some point, so, maybe it will continue because it's within a church, right? But when it's
Mm.
not within a community and when it's something like often, like let's say weekly, I'm like,
Right.
how relevant is it that it has to be
Mm.
like it has to be just men, just women. Like I don't know.
Yeah, I feel that.
I
I
like
hear
to
what
play
you're
devil's
saying.
advocate, so.
I have I hear what you're saying though. No, it does make sense. I think the thing is like generally speaking, people would always like subconsciously be more comfortable with people like or people like them, you know. You can't particularly like so I guess that's always kind of just the
That's
way I've
true.
thought about it. Like even when I say, oh, how often do you see a community for men? I'm sure that some exist. Like, for example, one of my dad and a few of my friends, their dads as well. So they definitely exist. I think we just don't I think men are just different in the sense that first of all, I think the actual number one problem, right, is that most men actually don't realize the need for community. That's the number one issue, right?
Yeah.
A lot of us, we don't even acknowledge the need for community.
Yeah.
So
do you think that's more of a black man thing, or do you think it's men in general?
That's a very good question. See, I can't really speak for a white man's experience. Not going to lie. Not going to lie. I don't really know what a white man goes through in this life. So, you know what? I'm not even gonna. I don't know. So I can't really speak for them. I shan't lie. But from what I know, like obviously most people I know are black men. Most men I know are black. So like I'll say black. I guess I'll say black men for now. If I talk to a white man who also like feels the same kind of vibe, then maybe I can speak on that. But other than that, like I don't know. Yeah,
maybe it is men in general, but I do think black men more.
Maybe
because you guys are taught that you need to be independent.
It's something I talk to my friend my on this podcast a few episodes ago. My friend raised that he was basically like, if you think about it, right, generally speaking, for black people, we always have to like overcompensate, right? So you can't just be it goes to the point you were speaking about earlier as well, about like, so for example, if someone is like a construction worker, there's nothing wrong with being a construction worker, but like for a black person, for to be black, you're always overcompensating, right? So exactly, you get what I mean. So in your head, it's always you have to be excellent. You can't just be, you can't just be living your life. You have to be, you have to excel, So so basically, exactly, you have to actually be at the cream of the cream, whatever, because you're always overcompensating. And basically, my friend was saying, well, if you think about it, like, so that exists, right? And then also for like men, generally speaking, there's also a lot of like pressure already because the whole thing of like, one day you're going to be like the leader of a family, and one day you're gonna have to be like all of that. So for a black man, both join that of being black and that of being a man combined, and
like a lot,
it makes for an interesting life. It makes for a very interesting life. Yeah, pressure is a lot.
My brother does this thing called Man Up, and they talk about experiences of men. And I think for me, it really opened my eyes, because me, I like very much grew up around women, and so I didn't really feel like I got the male perspective. I thought they were just making excuses, but I think. But I think having my brother, when he started Man Up, like when they talked about certain experiences with the pressures they do have as men and how they don't, get to talk about certain things, I do feel men, particularly black men, do have a lot of pressure externally and internally.
For sure.
They are not taught. You guys are not taught how to navigate, and how to offload. Because at least for us, we may not always know how to navigate. I mean, I've had to learn personally how to navigate life. Like, we have each other in a way in which we know how to offload on each other and draw strength from each other. Whereas I feel like men are more so until you have hit the rock.
As a man, you're just supposed to just leave
there. Somebody now finds you at the rock, and bam, they now found you at the rock at the bottom. That's when you now know, maybe I need some help. Like,
you guys, something is wrong. Something they miss, man, for real. Something they miss. It is well, chat. God help us, honestly. God help us. Yeah, God help us. Alright, so we're going to move to the dessert now.
Okay.
And so for the dessert, we just take a phrase, or sometimes we haven't done it in a while, but a very sometimes a Bible verse, or like or just a phrase, just a concept, just a word, whatever, and we basically just discuss it. It's just a brief, short. Actually, I don't know which part of the episode is shorter, the appetizer or the dessert. I was going to say the shortest part of the episode, but I don't know whether that's true. I guess it depends on the episode. But anyway, let me not get way late. We basically just talk about something briefly. And what I have chosen, right, for us to discuss for this episode is self-worth.
Ooh.
Self-worth, because I think this is, I think about my guests, and then I try and think about something that's down the alley, so you get something that's like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Self-worth. Let's talk about it.
What do I think about self-worth? Wow, that's an umbrella. Everyone should have it. What do I think about self-worth? I think just the idea of self-worth is interesting. I just think it's interesting, the concept of worth in itself.
Right.
How people define their worth, how even just talking like from your basic unit to your wider unit. So basic unit is like your family unit, and how your experiences in your family unit affect how you see your worth. So if you grow up in a house where, for instance, in my house, we were always told you must come first. If you're not first, nothing else matters. And not that, like my mom was trying to like not make us feel worthy, but you just don't realize these things when you are saying it to a child. So for me, then I grew up thinking, if I'm not first, then I'm not doing anything. Which is why medicine was the biggest struggle, because you are now, let's say you are doing well and you're finally first, and then you go into a pool of potential or aspiring doctors, and the one who thought they were smart, right? The crocodile becomes a lizard.
Oh man.
So easy in those moments for your worth. And for me personally, I feel like when I went to med school, and I've talked about this with one of my other friends who's a doctor, my idea of my worth, completely, I realized, not even reduced, because you think it reduces, but actually just shows you what's really there. Like my worth was also in what I could achieve. And I was like, wow, I didn't feel very smart in med school. Therefore, I was not smart. Somebody that has gone through A-levels, gone through IGCSE, all of a sudden you're not smart because you are not first. And when you think about it, it sounds irrational. But oftentimes the conversations we have about worth with ourselves are irrational, you know? And I think it's just weird, like developing worth. But for me, self-worth is a continuous journey of knowing how much God loves me, and knowing how much I'm loved by my community. Because I think we can keep telling people God loves you, but if you don't have a sense of belonging amongst people, there's no amount of God loves you that will really, not saying that it's not valid, but the truth is, we are you experience God through people mostly. So if you don't have a sense of belonging in a community, whether it's in your family, with your friends, even if it's one person, love doesn't feel tangible.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. What do you think about self-worth?
No, I wholeheartedly agree. I think especially just the last thing you said, right? I think this is a weird one that, as Christians, we tell people a lot, oh, God loves you, which is true, just to be very clear. It is very true.
Very true. The truth.
And, as you go on as you go on your journey, you feel God's love in many different ways. But to someone who doesn't believe, how are they meant to believe you if, we are meant to be conduits of his love, you get what I mean? And if we're not, then how on earth are they meant to believe us, you get what I mean? But I wholeheartedly agree. I think you touched on a few things which I think are very key. I think also the fact that especially when you're young, right? For a lot of people, you stake your self-worth in something like an anchor,
Yeah.
right? And it's just sad that, well, not sad, because I guess everyone goes on their own journey, right? But more
Yeah.
often than not, especially when especially when you're young, especially because you're so impressionable, you're so, vulnerable. You can stake that in the wrong things, in the
Yeah.
wrongest things. I have seen, I've had friends who have staked their self-worth in other people. And in my opinion, that is never,
Never.
never, ever, it's never a good thing. Never a good thing.
Yeah.
I don't care who it is. You can stake yourself when you're in your parents. That's not a good thing. I don't care what anybody says. That is not a good thing. What happens the day that, and this is the thing, even when people always give the analogy of, oh, if somebody like says you should put your hand in fire, wave your hand in fire. It's not a stupid thing. But, and obviously your parents never ask you to put your hand in fire. But I genuinely think that it's just, that song in Lion King that talks about the circle of life. I believe strongly that there comes a time where you need to start figuring out independence. And if you stake your value of self-worth even in your parents, right, then you're gonna have issues. You're gonna have problems.
I don't even know if it's independence. I just think it's like, so I think a lot of it has to do with shame. So I read this book, and it was actually the book I was reading when I was writing the EP. I'm not a great reader because it takes me like 5 months to read one book. But like, confession, everyone's a reader now. I'm trying, but some of us are slow. Some of us only read, and our parents told us to write essays, so we didn't like reading because reading was associated with work in my life.
Oh my days.
But yeah, so I was reading this book, and it was called Overcoming Shame, and even just how I found the book was a whole spiritual experience in itself. But he's a psychologist and a Christian, and he does like counseling for families. And I like reading books written by people who are actually trained in those areas, if that makes sense. Because,
right. Yeah,
it's important too. Like, God doesn't just want everyone to be pastors. Like, do you get what I mean? He wants the psychologist. He wants the teacher. He wants, because we all have something to contribute to the body.
Absolutely.
And so he said 3 things that help overcome shame are vulnerability, grace, and acceptance. And I think he said something that always stuck with me is humility is supposed to come from a deep sense of worth. And so we think humility is wearing rags and not knowing who you are. But actually, for Jesus to, like, there's a verse in Philippians that says he laid down his divine privilege, and he took the position of man, right? So he laid down his divine privilege. So he knew who he was. Every time we see him, we see how he speaks with so much authority, but he still washed feet. And so worth, now in this culture, worth is now spoken as this thing where it's like, I can do whatever I want, I can be whatever I want. But that's not worth. Worth, like, true humility comes from a deep place of worth. Worth is not having to defend yourself. And that's something I have to say to myself, because I can be very defensive, is if you know your worth, you won't always need to be defensive, because you'll be assured that you are valued, you are loved, And so in an argument with your friend, when that person says something a bit out of line, if you know your worth, your argument will be more about why they said that, rather than whether you believe it's true about yourself.
Yeah.
So I think it's interesting. Like, I don't know if it's even independence. I think it's just a lot of it has to do with shame and forming our ideas of who we are around what everybody says about us, which is you can't not take people's views of you on board. Because I went to this seminar. Like, I like all these weird, I don't know, I should have probably done psychology or something, but like I like these arguments about individualism versus, what was it called? It was about I feel therefore I am. That was the name of the seminar. And basically how we're living in a time where it's, I feel I am this, therefore I am this. And so whereas in the past they were more objective and more thoughts related, we are more feelings driven, and kind of trying to find a balance, because the truth is I cannot individually just say I am this and be that. I know I am kind. because I see myself in relationship with people around me. Do you get what I mean?
I feel that
You have an attitude problem based on how you treat everyone.
Facts, yeah.
But at the same time, you can't then take on every single person's thought of you.
Right.
So it's this weird tension of like objective and subjective and people's opinions, but also knowing who you are on the inside. And that's why it's good to have people around you who are trusted and who you have a sense of acceptance, because then those people can speak life into you rather than it being this thing of somebody you don't know like that just telling you you're this kind of person and all of a sudden you are forming yourself according to their words. If that makes sense.
Definitely. I agree. I think it's always about, but I'm a firm believer in balance in everything and anything. I think
I don't have much of that, but
med school, Abi.
It's not even money, but everything. We're actually in everything.
Yeah, it is well. But yeah, I'm a firm believer in balance. I think you have to be able to accept criticism, which I think is sad, because obviously in the world of today, anything that resembles constructive criticism can be misconstrued, and people would but that's a whole different conversation. But I think you have to be able. I think to be very clear, I think there are also sometimes when the criticism isn't yours to give. So there's sometimes when I may feel like I want to say something, and in my head I'm like, you know what? No, it's not like it's just not meant to come from me. I believe that somebody else pointed out to them, and it's not going to be you get what I mean?
And that's a good thing to have, because I'd say that's something I really did not have. Because I kind of grew up, I say whatever I feel like. If I feel like you need to be told, I'm going to tell you. And I've had to learn, and it's really hard learning. And again, you learn in relationship with people when your friends are telling you that, Atinúké, nobody asked you for your opinion. When your friends are telling you that and you're in the hot seat, the criticism is not cute, but eventually you have to take it on, otherwise it affects the relationship. So. Facts.
No, I feel that. I feel like everyone has to learn though. Like they're always with everyone, right? It's always a learning curve. It's always a steep, like knowing when so you're being constructively criticized. When someone says something, you're like, okay, I'm going to take that on board. I'm going to learn. And then there are other times, don't get me wrong, there are going to be other times where people are actually just haters. That's just how life is. There will be times, right, where literally, even the thing we're talking about, self-worth, right? There will be times where your own security is going to aggravate someone else's insecurity. That's just the way life is. Somebody would actually somebody's just going to look at you and be like, you know what? This girl is too confident. She's just too nah, I don't like it. She's just too self-assured. What's wrong? You get what I mean? That is meant to be normal, but it's not. And so to them, it's it just does them somehow, sure you guess, and then they start to take it out on you. It's quite sad, but that's just how it is. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
So I think, like I said, conclusion for me is always balance. A bit of both, knowing when to say, okay, I'm going to take this on as constructive criticism. But you can't, obviously, if it's not constructive, don't take it. Because if it's just a kidney of, if they're just hating, as people will say, then you don't need to take that on. You get what I mean? You don't need to carry their baggage. Let them sort it out for themselves. That's on me, I think.
Yeah. It's fantastic to see that.
Yeah. I really, really am. I'm a fan believer in, all of that. Yes, balance. In conclusion of your episode,
I don't believe balance exists, so that would be a conversation for another day.
Or you don't think balance believes in you? You want to believe in balance?
I really tried, honestly. I really tried to believe in balance, but balance hasn't served me well, so I've just decided,
Oh dear. No. It is what it is. Yeah. It is well. Thanks so much for coming on. This was such a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Genuinely, thank you. I think you're such a unique person, and I really like that. I really, really admire that. Yeah, I must say, I really do. And thank you guys for listening, to all the listeners, and I'll see you guys in the next episode.
Thank you so much. Bye.